Have you ever felt like you're working hard, but not moving forward? You try to stay disciplined. You try to stay focused, but something still feels off. Here's a truth most people never hear. Success is not controlled by effort alone. It is controlled by how you think. And billionaires, they don't just work harder. They train their minds differently, every single day. Not with motivation, not with random habits, but with systems, mental systems. The way they think about problems, decisions, focus, and even themselves is completely different. And that difference creates everything you see on the outside: money, freedom, control. So, in this video, we're not talking about business. We're talking about how powerful minds are built, step by step, daily. Because once you change how you think, you change how you live. Let's start with the first mental habit. Part 1. They train. Clarity, not just intelligence. Most people believe success comes from intelligence. Being smart, learning fast, knowing more than others. But that's not what creates results. Because you can know a lot and still feel lost. Billionaires focus on something different. Clarity. Clarity means you know what matters. You ignore what doesn't. And you act based on that. Without clarity, your effort becomes scattered. You stay busy, but not effective. That's why high-level thinkers train clarity every day. Not once in a while. Daily. How? They start with questions. Simple but powerful. What is the most important thing today? What actually creates progress? What is just distraction? Most people never ask these. They wake up, check their phone, react to everything, and their day controls them. But people with clarity control their day first. They take time to think, even a few minutes. No phone, no noise, just thinking. This allows the mind to organize, to filter what matters, to remove confusion. Another habit. They write, not for others, but for themselves, because writing forces clarity. If you can't write it clearly, you don't understand it clearly. So they write ideas, plans, problems. And through writing, their thinking becomes sharper. Here's the key. Clarity reduces stress. When everything feels important, you feel overwhelmed. But when you know what matters, you feel calm, focused, in control. So if you want to start, try this tomorrow. Before checking your phone, ask, what is the one thing that matters today? Just one. And build your day around it. That's how clarity begins. Part 2. They train emotional control, not just discipline. Most people think discipline is about forcing action. Wake up early, work harder, push yourself. And that works. For a short time. But here's the problem. If you can't control your emotions, you can't stay consistent. Because emotions always come back. Stress, fear, doubt, frustration. And when they rise, most people lose control. That's why billionaires train something deeper. Emotional control. Not to remove emotions, but to manage them. Every day. The first habit they build is awareness. They don't react immediately. When something happens, they pause. just for a moment, because between what happens and how you respond, there is a small gap, and inside that gap is your power. Most people react fast, but high-level thinkers slow down. They ask, what is the best response here? Not the fastest, not the easiest, the best. That small shift changes everything. Another habit. They get comfortable with discomfort. Most people avoid pressure. They escape it. But successful people use it. Because discomfort is training. Difficult conversations, uncertain decisions, high-pressure moments. These are not problems. They are practice. Each time you stay calm under pressure, you become stronger. Over time, what used to stress you no longer affects you. There's also something important. They protect their emotional environment. Too much noise creates unstable thinking. News, social media, constant comparison. All of this affects your emotions, so they limit it. They choose what they consume, because what you see affects how you feel, and how you feel affects how you decide. Here's the truth. You can't control everything around you, but you can control your response. So today, try this. When you feel a strong emotion, pause. Take one breath. Then ask, what is the right response here? That moment is where mental strength is built. Part 3. They train. Focus like a weapon. Today, focus is rare, not because people are lazy, but because distraction is constant. Notifications, messages, endless scrolling. Your attention is being pulled in every direction. And without realizing it, your mind becomes fragmented. You try to work, but you keep switching from one task to another, to another. At the end of the day, you feel busy, but not productive. Billionaires see this clearly. They don't treat focus as a basic skill. They treat it like a weapon, because where your attention goes, your results follow. If your attention is weak, your progress is slow. If your attention is sharp, your progress becomes fast and intentional. So instead of doing more, they train themselves to focus deeper. First, they protect their attention. Most people protect their time. But time without focus has no value. That's why high-level thinkers reduce interruptions. They don't constantly check their phone. They don't respond to everything instantly. They create space to think. Another habit? They use focus blocks, short periods of time, with zero distraction. No phone, no multitasking, just one task, fully. At first, this feels uncomfortable. Your mind wants stimulation. It wants to escape. But that's exactly why it works. Because focus is not natural anymore. It is trained. Every time you resist distraction, your attention becomes stronger, like a muscle. They also avoid multitasking, because multitasking is not efficiency. It is division. Each time you switch tasks, your brain loses energy. You become tired, without real progress. But when you focus on one thing, your thinking becomes clearer, deeper, stronger. This is where real work happens. And there's something most people avoid: silence, boredom. But these are powerful. When your mind is quiet, it resets. It becomes stable again. And a stable mind can focus deeply. Here's the truth. You don't need more time. You need better attention. So start simple. Choose one task. Set 30 minutes. No distractions. Just focus. It will feel hard. But that's how training begins. Part 4. They train. Long-term thinking, not short-term pleasure. Most people think short-term. What feels good now? What is easy now? What gives quick results? And it's natural. Your brain is designed to seek immediate reward. So you choose comfort. You choose speed. You choose what feels good today. But here's the cost. Short-term thinking creates long-term frustration. You feel progress, but it doesn't last. Billionaires train their minds differently. They think long-term, every single day. Instead of asking, "What do I want now?" they ask, "What will matter later?" This shift changes your decisions. You become more patient, more strategic, more intentional. For example, most people quit too early. They try something for a short time, don't see results, and stop. But long-term thinkers expect slow progress. They understand. Real growth takes time, so they stay consistent. Small actions, repeated daily. That's how results compound. Another key habit. They delay gratification. They don't chase comfort. They choose what is harder now because they understand the future value. While others are distracted, they are building. While others are consuming, they are creating. This creates a gap over time, not in days, but in years. There's also something deeper. They think in consequences. Before acting, they ask, "What will this lead to?" Not just, "Do I feel like doing this?" This protects them from short-term mistakes and helps them make better long-term decisions. Another habit, they zoom out. Most people are trapped in daily stress. Tasks, deadlines, problems. They are busy, but not always moving forward. But high-level thinkers step back. They review their direction. They ask, "Is this taking me where I want to go?" Because being busy is not the same as making progress. Here's the truth. Short-term thinking feels good, but keeps you stuck. Long-term thinking feels harder, but sets you free. So today, before making a decision, ask yourself, how will this affect me in 1 year? That question alone can change your future. Part 5, they train. Decision-making, not just knowledge. Most people believe, if I learn more, I'll succeed. So they read more, watch more, study more. But their life doesn't change. Why? Because knowledge alone does nothing. Results come from decisions. You can know everything and still stay stuck if you don't act. Billionaires understand this clearly. That's why they train decision-making daily. Because every result in your life comes from a decision you made or a decision you avoided. The first difference, they don't wait for perfect certainty. Most people delay decisions. They want more information, more clarity, more confidence. But perfection never comes, and waiting creates hesitation. High-level thinkers accept this. You will never have 100% certainty, so they decide with enough information, then adjust later, because action creates clarity. not thinking alone. Another habit? They reduce decision fatigue. Every small choice takes energy. What to do, what to eat, what to focus on. And over time, your mental energy decreases. So when something important comes, you feel tired. That's why many successful people simplify their lives. They create routines. They remove unnecessary choices so they can save energy for what really matters. Another key point: they separate emotion from decision. This is difficult because emotions feel urgent, but they are not always accurate. So instead of deciding in emotional moments, they pause. They ask, what would I decide if I were calm? That question creates clarity and prevents mistakes. Another powerful mindset: they take responsibility. If a decision fails, they don't blame others. They learn. They adjust. They improve. Because failure is not the problem. Repeating the same mistake is. Here's something important. Every decision builds your identity. Each time you act with discipline, you become stronger. Each time you avoid action, you weaken your mindset. So decision-making is not just about outcomes. It's about who you become. So today, try this. When you feel stuck, set a short limit. 30 seconds. Decide. Act. Adjust later. Because movement builds confidence. And confidence changes everything. Part 6. They train identity, not just habits. Most people try to change their habits. Wake up early, work harder, stay consistent. But they struggle to maintain it. Why? Because habits don't last. If your identity stays the same, if you see yourself as inconsistent, you will return to inconsistency, no matter how hard you try. Billionaires understand this, so they don't just focus on behavior, they focus on identity, who they are, every day. Instead of saying, I need to be disciplined, they think, I am someone who does difficult things. That shift changes everything, because when something becomes part of who you are, you don't negotiate with it. You act naturally. Another key habit: they keep small promises to themselves. Most people don't. They say, I'll start tomorrow. I'll be consistent. But when the moment comes, they don't follow through. And each time they break that promise, their self-trust decreases. Over time, they believe they are unreliable. But high-level thinkers do the opposite. They start small, very small, and they keep the promise. Because every small action is proof. Proof that they are consistent. Proof that they can follow through. And over time, those small proofs build a strong identity. Another thing they train? Their inner language. How you talk to yourself shapes how you think. If you repeat, I can't do this, I always fail, your mind believes it. But if you shift your language, I'm learning, I'm improving, your identity begins to change, not instantly, but steadily. They also think about their future self, clearly, specifically, and they ask, what would that version of me do today? Then they act on it, step by step. Here's the truth. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your identity. So, if you want to change your life, start there. Choose who you want to become, and prove it, one action at a time. So now you understand something powerful. Billionaires don't think differently by accident. They train their minds every day through clarity, through emotional control, through focus, through long-term thinking, through decision-making, and through identity. And none of this is out of reach. You don't need money to start. You don't need perfect conditions. You only need awareness, because change doesn't begin with action. It begins with thinking. And once your thinking changes, your actions follow. Then your results. Then your life. So don't try to change everything at once. Start small. One question in the morning. One moment of pause. One focused session. One better decision. That's enough. Because small changes, repeated daily, create powerful results over time. And if you found value in this video, take a moment to reflect. Which part will you start today? And if you're serious about building a stronger mindset, step by step, consider subscribing to the channel, because this is not about motivation. This is about transformation. And your next level starts with how you think today.